Hello, I wanted to do a series of videos on lines, so I wanted to start with what I would consider the easiest case, and I want to move right up through the more difficult cases, and so that's what these videos are going to do. So let's start with this. Suppose you're asked to plot the point x equals 3. If you're asked that when you're a little kid, I think most of us would say, okay, well, let me go to a number line. On the number line, let me mark off where 0 is. So let me switch to pen here. Let me mark off where 0 is, and then count over 1, 2, 3, and then put a dot, and that would be x equals 3. But now that you're in an algebra course where we don't only have one axis, an x-axis, we have two. If we were to look at the same problem, I want to plot x equals 3. Here's the x-axis, as we know, and here's the y-axis. So now when I plot x equals 3, I have a system that's a little more sophisticated. So I would say here, 1, 2, 3 along the x-axis, and I could put a dot there, and I would be accurate. But that's not the only point there is if I admit the existence of a y-axis, because if I go over 3, say, and up 1, I can put a point there, and that would be the point 3, 0. This would be 3, 1. And as you can see, the x-coordinate is 3. This point here, the first one that we plotted, just like we did back here before we knew about the y-axis, is actually the point 3, 0. If I put a point 1, 2 down, this point would be 3, -2. And I think it's clear to see that this point right here might be 3, 0.5. And I think it's somewhat clear to see that if I draw a line in that connects all of these points, I'd have a vertical line. The criteria of this line just means that the x-coordinate of all the points that are on this line must be equal to 3. So when I say to you, plot the line, x equals 3, it shouldn't be a question now that it's a vertical line. So let's try a different one. If I were to say x equals -2 and I ask you to plot that line, well, the way that would be plotted, let's draw an axis here. So here's a y-axis, here's an x-axis. If I said plot x equals -2, we would say 1, 2, there is one point right there. That would be the point -2, 0, satisfying the criteria that x must be equal to -2. Another point might be -2, 1, 2, 3. That point would work. That point would work. -2, -1 maybe. Any point you pick on the vertical line, a little crooked there, any point you pick that has an x-coordinate of -2 will work, and I think it's easy for you to see at this point that vertical lines have an x-coordinate that stays constant. So when I say to you, x equals some number, there shouldn't be a question in your mind anymore that it's got to be a vertical line located on the x-axis at whatever number that I choose. So now, the next video is going to be what's going to happen when I ask you to graph a line like y equals 4. What does that look like? And then after that, we're going to put the x's and y's together and get the slope-intercept form and all those kinds of things. So I hope this little video helps. Tune in for the next one, and then the one after that. I'm going to try to make these as simple as I can in a series of incremental steps with examples at the end.